who's actually going to get the most out of a 17-inch laptop that packs an i9 13900HX and an RTX 4090, and who would be better off putting that money towards something else? If you're trying to decide whether this HP OMEN is the right fit for you, or if you're just wondering whether the price tag makes sense for a regular gamer who mostly streams on weekends, keep listening. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've spent the last few days setting this machine up next to my desk, running a couple of AAA titles, testing a video editing workflow, and comparing it to the smaller, more portable rigs that dominate the market. So let's walk through what you really get when you open the box. First off, the size of this thing is a conversation starter on its own. A 17.3-inch screen at a QHD resolution with a 240 Hz refresh rate feels almost like a desktop monitor you can pick up and move around. If you're the type of gamer who refuses to compromise on visual fidelity, those ultra-wide, high-detail textures that make open-world games feel alive, the display will deliver exactly that. I spent a solid hour in Flight Simulator with the graphics set to max, and the 3 milliseconds response time meant there was no noticeable blur, even when I was rapidly turning the virtual aircraft. The downside, however, is that the chassis is as big as a small TV, which makes it a challenge to fit into a typical backpack or even a cramped bedroom desk. If you travel a lot, or you need a laptop that can slide into a cramped carry-on, this will feel like a compromise you didn't sign up for. Now, let's talk about raw muscle. The i9 13900HX brings 24 cores and 32 threads to the table, and paired with 32 GB of DDR5, multitasking feels effortless. I had Adobe Premiere Pro open, a web browser with 10 tabs, and a Discord voice chat running while I launched Cyberpunk 2077 at native resolution. The frame rate stayed solid, and there was no stutter when switching between the video editor and the game. That level of performance is the kind of thing professionals who need a workstation on the go will appreciate, especially if they are rendering 4K footage or doing real-time ray tracing in their creative pipelines. But here's the hidden trade-off: that processing power draws a lot of energy, and the laptop's battery life reflects that. Even with a 90W charger, I could only squeeze out about an hour and a half of heavy gaming before the charger became a must-have accessory. If you expect to run this beast on battery while commuting, you'll be disappointed. Thermals are another practical concern that often gets glossed over in spec sheets. The OMEN's cooling system uses multiple heat pipes and a sizable fan array that keeps the RTX 4090 from throttling during long sessions. I ran a stress test for 30 minutes, and the GPU temperature hovered in the low 80s Celsius, respectable for a laptop of this size. The fan noise, however, is noticeable. In a quiet apartment, the fans kick up to a level you can definitely hear, which can be distracting during voice chats or streaming. If you need a silent environment, you might need to lower graphics settings or accept the acoustic compromise. Storage is where this laptop really shines for power users. A 2TB NVMe SSD means you can install multiple large games, keep your project files, and still have room for a hefty library of media. The drive is fast enough that loading times in Elden Ring were under 5 seconds, and moving large video files between applications felt instantaneous. The downside is that the SSD is soldered onto the motherboard, so future upgrades are out of the question. If you like to swap drives or expand storage down the line, you'll have to rely on external solutions, which can be a hassle. One feature that catches the eye is the RG Backlit keyboard. It's fully programmable, which is great if you love to set up macros for games like Valorant or Call of Duty. The keys have a decent travel distance, giving you a satisfying typing experience, and the lighting can be synced with other peripherals if you're building a cohesive setup. For people who spend most of their day typing code or writing, the keyboard works well. But if you're not into customizing lighting, you're essentially paying extra for a gimmick that doesn't add functional value. Connectivity is solid. You get Thunderbolt 4, several USB-A ports, HDMI, and a DisplayPort, which means you can hook up a 4K monitor, external GPU, or fast external storage without needing adapters. I connected the laptop to a 4K TV for a movie night and the picture was flawless, with no latency. The Wi-Fi 6 module handled my home network with ease, even when multiple devices were streaming simultaneously. The only hiccup I noticed was the placement of the ports. The HDMI is tucked behind a small vent, making it a little tricky to plug in when the laptop is on a tight desk. So, who should consider buying this machine? If you are a content creator,